All right, Yahoo Sportsbook Live here in Week 6. Minty, I'm excited because I've got the pride of Old Dominion University throwing touchdowns to Ricky Seals-Jones, who I use for just $11 in our Yahoo Daily Fantasy contest for FFL. So that is a very exciting development. It'd be nice if Tyreek Hill could not just push off these interceptions to other defenders there. I mean, that would be nice for my daily fantasy lineup as well. But Minty, what has caught your eye so far in the early action?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so I was super nervous about this Chargers-Ravens game, and at first I really liked the Chargers as underdogs, but they are like the big public dog today, so I'm really excited to see how this game is playing out. I gave on TikTok that this game was my thirst trap, and I call it a thirst trap not for clickbait reasons, but because people salivate over betting on one team over the other, and this is where I highlight to bet the other side rather than the big public team. So the Chargers were the big public team today, and I am on the Ravens. I got them at -2.5 this morning, as they were at -3 all week. So 2.5, great number. Loving how this plays out. Surprised how rough the Chargers are looking right now.
I know, yeah. The current halftime line is Baltimore -11.5, which I think is pretty aggressive. Like, I think LA can come back in this one and make it interesting, right? Like, I would definitely, if you're live betting this, I would go Chargers plus 11.5. I mean, give me a break. They're still a quality team. A lot of mistakes by both quarterbacks. We've had an interception on both sides. Lamar has made some unbelievable plays. We talked about the player prop early for him on FFL. He's already at 40 rushing yards so far, but we're also turning back the clock in terms of touchdowns scored for these Ravens backs. We've had Le'Veon Bell and Latavius Murray both scoring touchdowns. Le'Veon Bell, like, playing for the Ravens. I can't believe such a huge name, and he's just like, is an afterthought. It's crazy. But yeah, the Chargers, I think they can start to move things a little more in the second half. This Ravens defense has some injuries. There are some exploitable moments there. Anything else on this game, or should we talk about your Bengals?
Ooh, well, I can't wait to talk about that. But yes, I would definitely take the Chargers plus the double digits. And we can certainly move on to the Bengals here. I do love the Bengals. On the Yahoo Sportsbook Daily podcast, I gave out Bengals -3.5 as one of my best bets. 3.5 is not a very good number, especially when betting on the favorite and especially when betting on the Bengals, because they like to keep games really close. Look at this halftime line, -10.5. That is just as aggressive as making the Ravens -11.5 favorites. I think the Lions are a little bit better than what we think, but they're kind of still hard to read. I'm keeping my Bengals -3.5, staying away from this halftime line here.
Yeah, they just don't have a lot of juice there in Detroit. In addition to already having like a shallow wide receiver roster, they've had a lot of injuries there as well. Quintez Cephas was a guy who was kind of coming on for them. He's out. Jared Goff, 9 completions, 15 attempts, and just 38 yards with an interception. That is not what you want to see. I will say the Bengals are I feel like you talk about the Bengals a lot, and it's interesting because they're a much different team, at least to my eyes, than what I expected this year. Like, not that I thought they'd be terrible or anything like that. That's not really where I'm going from that angle. But like, they want to establish the run. They've done a pretty good job of keeping Joe Mixon involved, and their defense is at least like average or above average potentially. Like, that is a pretty encouraging development for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're doing a better job at protecting Joe Burrow. But again, one of these teams that's hard to read. You just have to like pick and choose the right games that you think they'll like to flourish in. And that's so far what I've been able to do. Yeah, I'm excited to see them when they come to Vegas in a couple weeks or a month.
Yeah, there you go. To your point, that is why I think these games have been closer, is because defensively they're a better unit. They are running the ball more than they have in previous years, but still Jamar Chase, I mean, like, if you can get whatever his like longest reception player prop is, like, just bet the over every single week, because they continue to get that guy involved in the deep game. Chris Evans, don't call me Captain America, Chris Evans did score a touchdown for this team as well. If you had the desperation used him in fantasy. I like Minty's like kind of like, oh God, terrible joke, not funny at all. But all right, let's move on to Texans at Colts. We've got the Colts 10-3 over the Houston Texans. The current halftime line is -10.5. This one's tough to me. I still feel like Carson Wentz has been he's been slinging some deep passes. We saw him Monday night against the Ravens have his best game in quite some time, I would say. Not even just this year, but like quite some time. Pretty good game for Carson Wentz. So far, though, in this game, he's also been slinging the ball downfield to Paris Campbell. T.Y. Hilton's back. He's making some explosive plays. And the Texans, it's just every week we don't really know what we're going to get from them.
So true. I mean, Carson Wentz had a great game last week. I think he threw no interceptions. And this week he's like rolling the ball and going with it. Like, he looks great this week, which I kind of need him to slow it down a little because I had the Texans as my best bet. I gave it out at plus 9.5. I actually bet it at plus 10.5 this morning. And the line is, the halftime line is very similar to what it was pregame. I still like the Texans here. I think Davis Mills can, catch up a little bit. They don't need to keep it close, but, 7-8 points would be great. Still like the Texans, but not as confident as I was this morning.
Yeah, I think the Colts team is just kind of finding themselves now, too. Michael Pittman's really coming on, getting some snaps from T.Y. Hilton, getting some snaps from Paris Campbell. Like, that is good to see. And, if the Colts, the one thing I will worry about if you are betting the Texans, like, on the plus side of it, is that Jonathan Taylor, like, if they can just turn around and hand that guy the ball like 10 to 15 times in the second half, he's really the type of running back who could salt away a big lead. All right, let's move to Packers Bears. We've got Packers 10, Bears 7. Current line is Green Bay minus 4.5. I'll tell you what, Minty, I've been watching this game a little bit. Packers have had some strange moments, but overall, like, Justin Fields, there was a huge busted coverage. Allen Robinson is open downfield. Guy just never looks for him. Very tilting if you are like me, who is in on Allen Robinson basically in all your dynasty leagues. Fantasy, it's kind of tough right now with Allen Robinson, obviously, but man, it's just this Bears team. I'm a little impressed that it's been this close, considering that they are still having their offensive woes as we expect.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't like to bet on the NFC North because I'm always wrong, and I always lose money, but I feel like, not obvious, but most likely the Packers will win this either by a blowout or by a last minute, like Aaron Rodgers Hail Mary. Like, that's kind of how it always goes with these divisional games against the Packers. So I'm liking the Packers to win. I don't know if I really would bet them at minus 4.5, but yeah, Chargers. Chicago not looking too bad defensively. We saw them last week looking pretty good against the Raiders, and Justin Fields better than Andy Dalton, but still needs work.
Yeah, Khalil Herbert's been a huge pickup for fantasy managers. 10 carries, 52 yards, that early touchdown. I know we talked a lot about him on FFL too, but yeah, I think this Bears defense is like legit. It's not as great as it was a couple of years ago when they made that huge playoff run in 2018. Huge playoff run. They made it to the playoffs, and obviously they had the kicking issues there that I feel like Matt Nagy has still not gotten over. But yeah, that's a whole nother discussion there. This defense is better. They're at least a plus side of the league unit there, and that is definitely showing up. That is definitely showing up in this game. All right, let's talk about Kansas City at Washington. We've got KC minus 3.5 is the current line. Washington 13-10 over the Kansas City Chiefs. Minty, Patrick Mahomes had 6 interceptions all of last year. He's already up to 7. I mentioned it at the top. Like, Tyreek Hill's having a couple just bounce off his hands, and it's like sometimes it feels like bad luck. Other times it's like, man, just these 52 other guys seem to kind of be letting down Patrick Mahomes in this spot. And that defense, I mentioned it to you earlier. Ricky Seals-Jones was like standing at the 20-yard line, standing there all by himself, still somehow catches the pass and is able to just like walk into the end zone. What is going on with the Kansas City Chiefs?
I think they are being exposed. I don't know. They just don't look as obviously as good as they did last season. And I knew they'd lose to the Bills, but this against Washington, I didn't expect this. But Kansas City is great at playing from behind, and they're probably going to win this game. So KC minus 3.5 is a steal. I think Washington will find a way to lose this game and blow this cover right here.
Interesting. Yeah, it's been 2 picks today for Patrick Mahomes, as I mentioned. Not much going on there. But if they get the turnover, like the yardage has been there, the explosive plays have been there for the Chiefs. So that, I think, does give you some encouragement if you're going to bet the Chiefs. Like, the turnovers should correct themselves at some point in this game. And Taylor Heineke's like had his moments. My guy Taylor Heineke, he's had his moments, but he missed Terry McLaurin on a few long catches there too. So Washington has to continue to take advantage of those opportunities, and the Chiefs just have to tighten things up. I agree with you. I think Kansas City still does eventually pull this one away. But Minty, all right, enough of this. Let's talk about the what we really want to focus on here is the Rams and the Giants. 28-3, the Rams are beating the Giants right now. The current halftime line is minus 25.5. We're almost halfway to my joke bet in the pre-show, which was like, whatever the line is for the Rams, minus whatever. Give me freaking minus 50 on the Rams, and I'll take it right now. Daniel Jones just threw another interception as we're heading into halftime here. Sterling Shepard kind of fell down, just bad luck, but like, when you're the Giants right now, you can't afford to have those bad luck moments because, Minty, they are dealing with a literal skeleton crew out there on their offense. Like, it's Sterling Shepard, Daniel Jones, and a bunch of guys. Kadarius Toney, their electric rookie, was on like 3 catches on his way to a big day, hurt his ankle. He's out for the game. They're already without Darius Slayton. They're already without Saquon Barkley. They're already without Kenny Golladay. Like, it's just a lot for the Giants to overcome against a really good Rams team who has been taking advantage of those opportunities.
It certainly is. Now, could this have anything to do with a couple years ago, there was like a black cat that walked into the field. Remember that? Like the Giants cat that walked into the field. Since then, they've just been declining, but kind of they've always just been going downhill. I actually really
ever since the boat pick.
Here. Yeah, the boat pick, yeah. I really liked the Giants here, and now I don't really. But interestingly enough, a lot of the tickets and money were on the Rams, like from the public. However, a lot of sharp money, a lot of professional sports bettors were just hammering the Giants, and that they moved that line down from Rams minus 10.5 to Rams minus 7.5 pregame. So that's really interesting. But yeah, this offense slimming down just does not help this at all. And I would stay away. Rams minus 25.5, are you kidding me? No way. I know you would take it up to minus 50.5, but yeah, we'll see. I wouldn't be surprised.
I would not actually take it at minus 50. I wouldn't take it at minus 25 too. It's just way too big of a number. But I would not then bet the Giants on the other side. Like, this is a team I would definitely want to stay away from. When it was like 11.5 in the middle of the second quarter, I would have taken that. That's great, because I do think like the Rams are a great team. They've already got a convincing lead. Like, they're legit. They're for real. You know, Darrell Williams scored 2 touchdowns, 1 through the air, 1 on the ground. Matthew Stafford threw a touchdown to both Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp. Like, they're just humming right now offensively. And as I mentioned, like, the Giants just don't. Daniel Jones is a guy who can perform well in like fantasy and negative game script, but I do not trust him like throwing themselves back into this game. Not at all. We could do one more game here before we take a look ahead at some of the games that are coming up Sunday night, Monday night. Let's just talk real quick. Panthers are down 10-12 to the Minnesota Vikings. The current halftime line is Minnesota minus 3.5. Minty, I honestly don't have a strong feeling about either of these teams. I mean, Sam Darnold has an early turnover. Obviously, we know the Panthers are without Christian McCaffrey. The only thing I will note from this game that I've been able to glean a couple times checking it out, Robbie Anderson, man, they are trying to get this guy involved. They're trying to like grease that squeaky wheel. But he's had a couple passes just drop off his hands, too. He's not had a good game at all. And obviously, it's showing up for Carolina, trailing at home.
Oh, yeah. I'm honestly really confused about the Panthers because they're underdogs here. They started off as short favorites. I think they were like 1-point favorites. And then the line quickly reversed to Vikings minus 2. I mean, the Panthers early on were in the running to be like one of the best teams in the NFC South to compete with like the Bucks. And after dropping 2 straight and just looking how they looked last week against the Eagles, I think, I mean, I feel like people have no hope for them. But the numbers state that they're still one of the best defenses, but the Vikings are the healthier team as of now. I have no real opinion on this game. 3.5, I would probably go with the plus points with the Panthers. I think I bet the Panthers plus 2 this morning, and I like that plus 3.5 for the Panthers here. So think about that.
Okay, yeah, I can get down with that. I think the problem for Carolina, and I mean, we watched the Eagles. The Eagles are not a good team. We just watched them on Thursday night. The Eagles just beat the Panthers, but that was like a situation where Philadelphia did not win that game last week. Carolina lost that game last week, and I think that's the problem too. The biggest thing for Carolina, I agree, the defense is still good. They've still got guys there. We know DJ Moore's a good player. Christian McCaffrey being out is problematic, and I think that not having Christian McCaffrey as an outlet receiver and the Panthers' offensive line starting to fall apart, I think that started to show some of the Sam Darnold mistakes that we're used to seeing. That's probably Carolina's biggest problem right now. So I see them as more of like a league average team. And I'm sure the lines and the totals and everything will start to show that more along the line as we get through the season. I do not think they're like an NFC playoff contender. If they lose this game to Minnesota, they're already kind of behind the 8 ball there in terms of the playoff seeding and everything like that. Because we know they're not going to win the division. They're not going to beat the Bucs out for the NFC South. So we shall see. But let's look ahead. Let's look ahead to the Cardinals at Browns. Browns are -3. A couple of injury notes for this game, too. We know Nick Chubb is out. Kareem Hunt is active, but Kevin Stefanski has kind of said he doesn't want to overwork Kareem Hunt because he's also battling through some injuries right now. But the biggest thing is, it sounds like the Browns are going to be without both Jack Conklin and Jedrick Wills, their 2 starting offensive tackles. Chris Hubbard, their swing tackle, I think is already on IR. Minty, does this give you any pause to taking the Browns -3.5? They're at home. The Cardinals are a really good team. You know, they definitely have the quarterback advantage, and it's a little problematic that the Browns' biggest advantage over the Cardinals would be their ability to run the ball, but missing Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt's a great back, but he's also a little banged up, and the offensive line injuries. I am getting a little nervous about the Browns -3, and I was in on that earlier, but now I'm getting a little nervous about it.
Yeah, I was a little nervous, but something told me to take the Browns, even when this line first came out. I really like the Browns here, even before all this injury news. I don't know if you mentioned earlier, Cliff Kingsbury out, quarterback coach out with COVID as well. So the defensive coordinator has to fill in and act as head coach today, which, oh my gosh, so much pressure. Kyler's shoulder injury flared up, I think, last week against the Niners in that second half of the game. So who knows how he's going to be doing. Chandler Jones out too. I mean, the Cardinals just riddled with injuries, just on the field, off the field. So I really like the Browns here. I think 3 is a great number, even without Nick Chubb. I think Baker has some weapons to work with down the field as well. So yeah, Browns. I would make this my best bet of the afternoon, honestly, other than the Raiders-Broncos game.
Of course. No, it's interesting because it's tough, right? The Browns clearly have some weaknesses there. The Cardinals, you mentioned, it's not just the fact that Vance Joseph at least has been a head coach in the NFL before, so there is that. He has experience acting in that role, but totally new play caller because Cliff Kingsbury calls the plays for them as their head coach. So that's a wrench thrown in there. They traded for Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz not going to play in this game, but they lost Max Williams, who had kind of been a security blanket for Kyler. The thing that you bring up most is Chandler Jones and Kyler Murray. Obviously, Chandler Jones is not going to play in this game. That might help the fact that the Browns don't have a starting offensive line there. They've got both their tackles out. Maybe that won't show up as much. But Kyler Murray's shoulder does, I think if you're taking the Browns -3, I think you got to kind of feel that the shoulder was the injury that kind of took Kyler down last year. If this shows up again, it could be a problem here. So you got me feeling a little bit better about the Browns -3.
Yeah.
I don't know if I feel as confident as you do, but I think you got me feeling a little bit better about it. Let's move on to your Raiders next. Raiders at Broncos. Broncos -3.5. How are you feeling about this game? Because obviously we know the Raiders have had a tumultuous week. New head coach in there. It's just quite a scene there. So how are you feeling about this game overall?
Quite a scene indeed. I don't like them to win this one, although it is possible. But I gave out the under 44.5 earlier in the FFL show. The Broncos defense giving up the 3rd least yards per game and only 15 points per game, while the Raiders are 10th in total yards allowed. I mean, the Raiders, I've been to all the home games. They are a slow team offensively. I find myself in the first half walking around eating food at all the concessions and stuff until I sit down the second half, and then the game actually starts. So yeah, I really like the under here. And man, 5 points with the Broncos? I mean, Teddy Bridgewater is a covering machine when starting, but that's a lot of points for the Broncos. I don't know.
That is an awful lot of points. I agree with you that the under is the safest bet here. Also worth noting, just like, Cliff Kingsbury's gone for the Cardinals this week. John Gruden, disgraced former head coach John Gruden, was the play caller for the Raiders too. So it's just an entire turnover there. I have no idea what to make of the Raiders the rest of the season. I would probably stay away from the Broncos -5. Wouldn't want to bet the Raiders +5 either, but I think the under is a pretty good safe bet there. Minty, your Bengals just scored another touchdown, 16-0 over, 17-0 over the Detroit Lions. It's a tough scene there. The long Joe Mixon play, but before we move into the Sunday night and Monday night games, let's touch on the Cowboys -3.5 at New England. This being in New England gives me some pause, but how do you feel about this one?
Honestly, I feel like the easy answer would be Dallas -3.5. I mean, they're 5-0 against the spread so far this season, and I don't see why they wouldn't keep rolling. But you're right, playing in New England is kind of tough. I still, like, my heart leans to take the Patriots plus the points, but I feel like that's just going to be a really bad bet, as Dallas could just roll over New England, like, real fast. Their offense solid, defense solid. I don't know. This one's a stay away for me, although my lean is on the Patriots.
Yeah, stay away feels like the right answer, but man, you said it, like, Dallas could run away in this game because obviously the Patriots defense is solid, but they did let Davis Mills throw all over them last week. That freaks me out a little bit. I know it was in Houston, but still, there's that. And, like, the Dallas offense right now, we always talk about Bill Belichick wants to take away what the opponent does best. Minty, the Cowboys do everything well. Like, they throw the ball well. They throw the ball to their tight ends well. Dalton Schultz is having a big year. CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper, those guys are still superstars. Zeke is running so hot right now behind an improved offensive line. The defense can take the ball away from Mac Jones and company. I don't know. The more I think about it, I know they're on the road. The mystique of the Patriots is still there, but I think I might take the Cowboys -3.5 in this one. Just feel like they are such the better team right now. All right, though, let's move on to the night games. Sunday night, and Minty, we're going to talk about my player props. Not to shout out to me, but I'm 20-10 on my player props so far this year. So been a good year for the player props. We're having a nice run here. You got to help me out though on this one, because I didn't feel great about the offerings for the Sunday night game. We've got the obviously Geno Smith-led Seattle Seahawks going to Pittsburgh. Steelers are -5. I don't know how to feel about this whole thing though, but I will say this: the one prop I'm confident in for Geno Smith, and just the Seahawks in general, like I want to give it a week with Geno before I want to start putting money on the player props for DK Metcalf or Tyler Lockett, even though I think those guys are still fine for fantasy. I don't think Geno Smith is that bad. Like, I think he is a good backup level quarterback. We saw him last week clear this rushing yardage number. I would take the over on his 18.5 rushing yards. He carried the ball 3 times for 23 yards. And even the last time we saw him start, which was forever ago, right? Like, we're talking 2014, 2015, like years and years and years ago. He was consistently a rushing threat. The fact he still got out there last week in relief of Russell Wilson, started taking off. I do feel pretty comfortable. If I'm putting any type of money on the Seahawks, I would feel pretty comfortable taking the over on Geno Smith's number here.
I like that. I have no arguments, even though it is kind of hard to say because we just saw him play last week, and he did rush over 18, 19 yards. But yeah, this is a hard game to read. I like the Seahawks, though. I know people are scared to take the Seahawks without Russell Wilson, but Geno, a veteran, experienced backup. So I think people are doubting him, and they're underestimating what he can do. Definitely like the Seahawks here. And Liz mentioned it earlier, might take them on the money line to win straight up against the Steelers, too.
Wow. Yeah. Listen, Pittsburgh's not a formidable opponent, overall. Like, I think the Seahawks could go in there and steal this game. Why not? Like, again, before putting like any player prop action out there for the receivers, I want to see Geno one game. But if I could really galaxy brain a take that like Geno might be a little steadier. I mean, he's not going to have the same explosive ability that Russ does from a downfield completion percentage standpoint, but like, I think Geno can matriculate the offense down the field. We kind of saw him do that last week. So, again, I am with you guys that there is some optimism, and there should be some optimism around Geno Smith and the Seattle Seahawks. We'll see if this take ages very poorly. Let's move to some player props, though, for the Steelers, guys. One thing I will definitely say is DeAndre Johnson over 64.5 receiving yards at -115. I feel very good about that. Look, we know that Juju Smith-Schuster is out. He's on IR. He's not coming back this year. A lot of the attention has been to Chase Claypool, as a kind of a fantasy riser in this move. But DeAndre Johnson is the #1 receiver there. He's going to continue to get peppered. He's had double-digit targets every single game. I think he's cleared this number in every single game. And the Seahawks defense is bad in the secondary. I mean, their cornerback situation is not good. Ben Roethlisberger is always going to be a question mark, but I think based on volume alone, I think DeAndre Johnson can get there on this one.
Absolutely. This number seems like it's set pretty low, seeing as I think so far I'm seeing he's exceeded that total in at least the last 3 games alone. Now going up against a team that allows the most, passing yards per attempt and per game. I like that over here, Harmon. You got something.
Yeah, I think we got something on that one. I feel okay with Chase Claypool too. Even James Washington, his over/under is like 33.5. Doesn't count towards my record here, not my pick here. But like even James Washington, I would feel pretty good about that too. This Seahawks defense is not good. And speaking of which, Seahawks defense is not good. Najee Harris is good. I think if you're playing Yahoo Fantasy, single game daily fantasy, this is your captain or your superstar pick here. Your top guy in the lineup. I know the price is high, but that's fine. I think Najee Harris has a huge game. I wish I could have gotten total yards for Najee Harris because he's such a huge part of the passing game. But I do feel comfortable at over 77.5 rushing yards. The Seahawks have given up 189 total yards to running backs so far this season. Yikes. Not great. That defense, as bad as it is on the back end, it might be even worse as a run defense. So I think Najee Harris is a very safe bet here to take the over on his receiving yards.
Ooh, I mean, he recorded 122, rushing yards last week. And obviously Seattle's defense not very good, but I might have to disagree with you, Matt. I might like the under here. I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's just set really high. That's all.
No, totally. Like I said, if you can get the total yards, like rushing and receiving combined, I would prefer that. When I checked, I only saw the rushing yards, so that I will take that one though confidently. That is fine with me. Listen, let's last few minutes here. 4 minutes left. Let's talk Bills at Titans. Bills are -5.5. This should be a high-scoring game. This should definitely be a fun fantasy game. Both of these offenses have a ton of talent. There's some questions with Tennessee. Julio Jones is going to play, it sounds like. A.J. Brown is going to play. I don't really – Minty, I'll talk about A.J. Brown in the player prop section later on. But how do you see this game going between the Bills, who are white hot right now, and their defense is obviously great? Do you think that has any concern for the Titans, who are – this is a Derrick Henry-led attack?
Okay, I've never heard of the term white hot, but yes, they are very hot, the Bills.
Really?
I see this, red hot, yeah. But I definitely
it's like what, like it's a thing. It's a thing.
Yeah, maybe the fire that's the whitest is the hottest, like the blue fire. Anyway, I definitely see this as a high-scoring game. As we know, both teams are very capable of scoring, and I don't think this Titans defense can keep up with this Bills offense. I don't really care if the Bills do most of the scoring here, but I want to have some hope that Derrick Henry will get to the end zone a couple times. So yeah, 54 set pretty high, but I like the over here.
Per dictionary.com, white hot is extremely hot, showing white heat, exceedingly enthusiastic, yada yada yada. It's a thing. I looked it up in the dictionary.
Okay.
It's a thing, Minty. Come on. Don't
cool.
trust me.
Okay.
Don't take one of my only things I like to say. White. I use white hot in like every article. So you had me shook there for a second that I sound like an idiot. All right, let's do player props real quick. I mentioned A.J. Brown earlier. I know there's like a lot of talk that he's not playing all the snaps, like blah blah. Okay, well I know he said he's not going to play a full snap count until week 10. I know he didn't play a full snap count last week, but he ran 92% of the routes on passing plays. So yeah, he's going to take off some run plays. That's fine. I will still take the over on his 59.5 receiving yards. I know the Bills' defense is great. I know the Bills' secondary is extremely good. They got Tre'Davious White, like they've been limiting passing games. But A.J. Brown is the only receiver so far in the NFL to see 6+ 20-yard targets, like just deep down the field targets, and not catch any of them. There's some positive regression coming from A.J. Brown. I think in negative game script where the Titans are going to have to throw the ball a lot, I think A.J. Brown can finally have his first big game of the 2021 season. But Minty, as much as I want to bet on that, I bet you will disagree with me on this one.
I kind of disagree with you. I think the under is kind of enticing here. And isn't A.J. Brown coming off like an injury? He's not super healthy. And I just think that Buffalo's, going to be able to pressure Tannehill a lot. And I don't think he'll be able to throw the ball to Brown a lot. So I'm leaning under, but I don't want to go against the props guy. So I like your over better, but I'm leaning the under.
I hear you. All right. Well, speaking of Ryan Tannehill, you mentioned it. I was pretty tempted to take the over on 0.5 interceptions for him, but instead decided to go over on the 15.5 rushing yards. I believe he's cleared this in 4 of 5 games so far this year. Like, he has been a part of the rushing attack, and you mentioned the pressure coming in that Buffalo's going to have. This is a guy that will scramble outside the pocket. Not is he's involved as a design rusher too, but the scrambling here for Tannehill is kind of my logic with the fact that the Bills are going to throw all these waves of pass rushers. The Titans' offensive line is pretty banged up, not 100%, not playing well overall anyways. I think I'm pretty in on the over for Ryan Tannehill. This just feels like the safest number to take for Ryan Tannehill. Like, the passing yardage one kind of worries me. Any sort of like production metric worries me, but the rushing one feels pretty safe for Tannehill.
Yeah, I like this, and I agree with you. I think he's going to have to be forced to scramble out of the pocket a lot, as I think that he will be pressured quite a bit. And 15.5 doesn't seem like a lot of yards, so hopefully he can run.
Yeah, I mean, we got the Mahomes one from last week, like, right away. That was, like, I took the over on his 16.5 rushing yards, like, right away against the Bills, just scrambled down there. So, again, that pressure will invite these guys to get outside the pocket, so I'm just going to use the same logic for Ryan Tannehill there. And speaking of doubling down, last week I had the over on Stefon Diggs' yardage. He had that huge downfield catch, so I was just sitting back like, all right, yep, gonna go 3-0 tonight, feeling pretty good about that. And like, that was it. That was the only big play he had all night, because the Bills didn't have to do very much. Josh Allen had 15 completions for over 300 yards. Like, that's fluky. That's not going to happen every single week. I think they're going to have to just move the ball a little more steadily, and Tennessee's defense stinks. I mean, Stefon Diggs is still getting the targets. He's still seeing all the volume like he was last year. He's on pace for a similar season finish in terms of his overall targets. At some point, he's going to have that massive eruption game. I thought it could have happened last week, but the Chiefs couldn't hold up their end of the bargain to actually turn this into a shootout. I think the Titans could, maybe a little bit more. So yeah, give me the over on 83.5 yards for Stefon Diggs. He's due for that huge game. I think it comes tonight. Or tomorrow night.
He's due, yes, tomorrow night. He's due indeed, and I am actually surprised that he's been limited to like 60s, like he's floating in the 60s within these receiving yards so far this season. So yeah, I like the over, as well as I'm expecting quite a bit of offensive production. And you're right, he's due for a breakout game. So this has to be it against this stinky Titans defense, as you said.
Yeah, only one game over 100 yards this year, only one touchdown as well. I think he gets over 100, and I think he scores on Monday night against the Titans as well. So let's set our expectations high for Stefon Diggs. Minty, I always set my expectations high every single week. I get to talk to you, whether it's on FFL, whether it's on this show. We appreciate everybody out there watching. Minty, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
No, good luck on all your bets, and hope we can make you guys some money.
Yeah, if you take the Rams minus 50, hopefully you enjoy that as well. Enjoy the rest of the week. 6 games. Get out there, win some money, win some daily fantasy lineups. It should be an exciting set of Sunday night and Monday night games as well.